Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai. Welcome to chapter 43. Let's repeat the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 And so we are continuing today with chapter 43 of the Nectar of Devotion. And let's offer our prayers to the Sat Goswamis, by whose mercy we have this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. If you'd repeat with me. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuno Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Vanerupa Sanatana Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopalako. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of, because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So this chapter 43 deals with parenthood. Krishna's the love between the devotees who are in the bhav or the mood of a parent or superior towards Krishna, uh, mostly Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. So in this vein, I'd like to recall that Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he gave a story about the love between a parent and a child. So once there was a boy who actually left his hometown and went off, studied, and became a high court judge. And then he returned after his qualifications and his uh, uh, becoming a high court judge and practicing as a high court judge very successfully. Then he returned to his hometown to pay a visit to his seniors. And when he was coming, all of the adults in the town, they all started to call him, "Hey, Hari Bol Panchang Nengti, Panchang Nengti." So it so happened when this boy was a small child, like most small children, he ran around in the neighborhood naked. He never used to like to wear clothes. So for a long time, he ran around naked. So they knew him or they nicknamed him Panchang Nengti, which means the naked one, in the town. But now that he had become a high court judge, that stuck with the elders that ah man, he's not the high court judge, he's our Panchang Nengti. So out of the love, a senior person may continuously see a small person, see a person in the eyes of through parental love, always thinking, that's my baby, that's my baby. So we'll see today how Srila Rupa Goswami expresses to us that this is also the case with Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. So we read from the Nectar of Devotion about Krishna's form, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose bodily complexion is like a bluish, new grown lotus flower, whose body is very delicate, and whose lotus eyes are surrounded by scattered hair as black as bees. His So Krishna's body as a little baby is so attractive that this hair that he has, these curly locks of black hair, they are actually like bumblebee, like bees. Why? Because normally you find bees are always moving. So Krishna's hair has got a lot of body and bounce, we could say in our terms, that it is always moving around like this. Actually, last night I was reading in Krishna Bhavanamrita how our acharyas were explaining that Krishna's hair is scented with aloe perfume. Now, I've never smelt the perfume from an aloe tree, but you may all know that aloe vera is always in most shampoos. So Krishna, it originates in Krishna actually, because his hair has the scent of aloe. It looks like little bumblebees. And last week we heard how sometime Krishna loses his finger inside the curl of his hair. So his fingers get stuck in that curl when he plays with it, curly locks. And Krishna's qualities, his blackish bodily hue, his all auspicious bodily features, his mildness, his sweet words, his simplicity, his shyness, his humility, his constant readiness to offer respect to the elderly, and his charity, all of these qualities are considered ecstatic provocations for parental love. So Krishna is the perfect child. He embodies the qualities that can draw the hearts of his elders in such an amazing way, that fixes them in that bhav perpetually. His qualities, the qualities that reveal Krishna's supremacy, do not stimulate Vatsalya Ras because they interfere with the devotee's mood of seniority. Consequently, parental devotees do not give much credence to the displays of Krishna's opulence. So you see in this beautiful picture how Mother Yasoda is looking into the mouth of Krishna. And we have heard from Srila Prabhupada's purports in the 10th canto how Mother Yasoda actually cannot really understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even after she sees all of the universes within his mouth while she was searching for the piece of dirt that he supposedly had put into his mouth. So her bhav is very fixed, sthayi in parental love. Um, Srila Rupa Goswami illustrates this. Once Mother Yasoda addressed one of her friends in this way: Nanda Maharaj, the leader of the cowherd men, worshipped Lord Vishnu along with me, and as a result of this worship, Krishna has been saved from the clutches of Maya, of Putana, and other demons. The twin Arjun trees were, of course, broken due to the strong wind, and although Krishna appeared to have lifted Govardhan hill along with Balaram, I think that Nanda Maharaj actually held the mountain. Otherwise, how could it have been possible for a little boy to lift such a great hill? So, if one wears rosy glasses, one sees the world rosy. So Mother Yasoda, her vision, stemming from deep within her heart, her chitta, is that of Krishna being dependent on her. That she is superior to Krishna. Krishna is mine, and I have to protect him. That's her mood, and she's so fixed in it that even one time when Balaram told her, um, your Lala, he's actually Narayan, and I'm Ananta Shesh. Mother Yasoda picked up a stick and she said, What? Give me one reason why all the incarnations of God will choose to take birth in my house. And she picked up a stick for Balaram. So we see that she cannot even accept that Krishna killed Putana. She believes Krishna is her baby, and it was her prayers, Nanda Maharaj's prayers, that actually protected child Krishna from the demoness Putana. And those twin Arjun trees coming down with such a crash in a very own courtyard, well, that she believes was just because of wind. It was not because little Krishna is capable of pulling the wooden grinding mortar in between the Yamala Arjun trees. He cannot even move anything less heavier than what to speak of huge, thick bark, thick trunks of the Yamala Arjun trees, and not one, two at that. No, it can never be Krishna's strength. And Govardhan Hill, he couldn't have lifted it up. How could he on the tip of his small finger? No, that was not possible. That's like an illusion for others to think that Krishna could do something like that. Through her vision, out of her love, she was thinking Nanda Maharaj and all of the other senior cowherd men who were lifting the hill also with their sticks. It was by their collective effort of these very strong elders that Govardhan Hill was held up. So she never acknowledges Krishna's supremacy out of her love. So Ashraya Alambana, the devotee as a stimulus for parental affection. The devotee who has anugraha is a stimulus for Vatsalya Ras. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes, Let me take shelter of the elderly parental devotees of Lord Krishna. They are always anxious to serve Krishna and to maintain him, and they're always so kind to him. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto them for being so kind to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the parent of the whole universe. So, in previous chapters in this section of the Nectar of Devotion, we came across um, how when Krishna is leaving for herding the calves, then Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, they're not so worried because he's within eye shot. They can keep an eye on him the entire day. But as Krishna grows a little older and he is given the charge of herding the bigger cow the bigger the bigger cows, then in the morning when Krishna is about to leave to go to the forest for this cow herding, Nana Maharaj and Mother Yasoda cannot bear the oncoming separation from their son, their darling son, that they follow him out of the house. And Krishna, who is in the heart of every living entity, including that of Nanda and Yasoda, as the all knowing Lord, he perceives this depth of love. And as they keep, Krishna proceeds further towards leaving Nanda Maharaj's courtyard, they follow and they say, Krishna, did you take your lunch? Krishna, did you do this? Do you have this? So there's so much of loving concern expressed. And Krishna knows this is not going to come to an end. They will follow me all through the forest. So he conjures a plan. And he says to his father that, Peter, can you actually make me a bat or actually make me a few bats so myself and the cowherd boys, when we return, we can play a good game of ball today? And then he says, Marta, will you be able to please start now to make all of us a good quantity of the nectarian drink? And he names a certain drink that's not very easy to make. And he thereby understands that to quell the separation that's burning in their heart because of the impending separation of Krishna going to the forest for the day, service to him will actually appease that. So he conjures this idea of engaging them. In his commentary, Srila Prabhupada writes, there is a similar prayer by a Brahmana who says, let others worship the Vedas and the Upanishads, and let others worship the Mahabharata. If they are afraid of material existence and want to become liberated from that condition. But as far as I'm concerned, I wish only to worship Maharaj Nanda because the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is crawling in his courtyard as his own child. So, how glorious is Nanda and Yasoda's existence that the magnificent Supreme Lord, full in all of his qualities, has agreed to take birth as their dependent, as their child, and is now crawling in their courtyard. So, this is an incredible form of admiration towards Nanda and Yasoda that we should all cultivate because it's no ordinary thing. So, the principal parental devotees are listed here. The following is a list of respectful personalities who enjoy parental affection towards Krishna. Mother Yasoda, who's the queen of Raja, Maharaj Nanda, the king of Raja, Mother Rohini, the mother of Balaram, and all the elderly gopis whose sons are taken away by Lord Brahma. Devaki, the wife of Vasudev, the other 15 wives of Vasudev, Kunti, the mother of Arjuna, Vasudev, the real father of Krishna, real within inverted commas, Sandipani Muni, Krishna's teacher. So, out of all of them, Nanda and Yasoda are the foremost parental devotees. All of these devotees that have been listed, they see Krishna as their dependent, that they it behooves them as Krishna's seniors to always pray for Krishna's well-being, to always look after his well-being, pray for him. The elder gopis are always praying for his protection, etc. So they are principal parental devotees, Nanda and Yasoda. Yasoda's form. So, my dear king, the wide hips of Mother Yasoda were surrounded by silk and linen cloths, and her breasts were flowing with milk because of her affection. Srila Rupa Goswami gives a second description. Let me be given protection by Mother Yasoda, whose curly hairs abound with thread, whose hair is very brightly beautified by vermilion placed in the part, and whose bodily frame derides all her ornaments. So Mother Yasoda is quite elderly because she waited a long time before she could have baby Krishna. They were for many years not bestowed with the benediction of having a child. So she is a little advanced in age. We hear that her hair is very curly, and that it's always bound by thread, and she has bright sindoor on her hair. And then we hear in other places Prabhupada describes how sometimes she wears the saffron sari, um, and her because of her maternal affection, just like in the time of Yudhishthir Maharaj, when he was ruling as emperor of the world, the cows were so happy that their udders will naturally, automatically become so full that milk will actually water or fertilize the entire land for the crops to grow. So, out of affection, maternal affection, this milk would come and would fall onto the grounds like that. So, similarly, Mother Yasoda's affection is is indicated by this happening also with in respects to her body. Yasoda's bhakti. After rising early in the morning, Mother Yasoda first of all offers her breast milk to Krishna, and then she begins to chant various mantras for his protection. Then Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain, she ties these like sort of tabij with different mantras for protection on the arms of Krishna, on his belly, etc., so that he all parts of his body becomes protected. So Mother Yasoda's love for Krishna is so intense that she actually cannot survive without this mentality of being his mother. And Nanda Maharaj, in this picture, um, you will be able to know who's Nanda Maharaj. Why? Because very nicely the artist has read the scripture and has depicted him quite adequately as is described here by Srila Rupa Goswami. He's described Nanda's form. The hairs on his head are generally black, but some of them are gray. We call that the salt and pepper look, black and white. His arms are of greenish color. His garments are of greenish color, like the new grown leaves of a banyan tree. His belly is fatty. His complexion is exactly like the full moon, and he has a beautiful mustache. So, this is Nanda Maharaj, very fatherly, fully equipped, even with the podgy belly and salt and pepper look on his hair and his beard, his mustache, and he is characterized by the green dress that he likes to wear. Nanda's Bhakti. When Krishna was a baby, one day he was walking in the courtyard, capturing the finger of his father, and because he could not walk steadily, he appeared to be almost falling down. While Nanda Maharaj was giving protection to his transcendental son in this way, all of a sudden there were drops of tears in his eyes and he became overwhelmed with joy. So, Nanda is the most loving father that you could ever find in creation. And Mother Yasoda, she is the most loving martyr that one can find in the entire creation. Why do I say this? Because it becomes clear in the descriptions of our acharyas in many, many books of how one time Krishna he sent Uddhava to Vrindavan, and you may be well familiar with the story of how Uddhava enters Vrindavan. So when Uddhava he goes to see, before he goes to see the gopis, he goes to Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj to visit them first, because he could well imagine Krishna told him his mother and father will be inconsolable in their grief due to his separation. So Uddhava made the first stop at their house, Nanda Bhavan. He was invited in, and immediately when he saw the condition in which Krishna's parents were, he was so struck. Yasoda, she was completely immobile. Her eyes were closed like a dead person. Nana Maharaj, he he just like a zombie, so one could say. He embraced Uddhava, gave him a place to sit. There was no food at all in Nana Maharaj's house to offer to the guest, esteemed guest Uddhava. The kitchen, where formerly there would be huge fires burning day and night, full making nice preparations for Krishna, the cowherd boys on a daily basis, day and night these fires would burn in Mother Yasoda's kitchen. But now that Krishna was away, there were huge spider webs all over, symbolizing a great sign of neglect. It was clear that there was no cooking done there during Krishna's absence. That was the condition of Nanda and Yasoda. And then what happens is that they themselves, they were, in their elderly age, suffering separation from Krishna, they were incapable of holding down anything, in other words, eating anything other than a thin whey drink. So whey is a very nutritious drink, we all know. After the churning of butter, you get whey. After paneer is made, there's whey. So in the village, all the other residents would bring this thin whey drink and sort of what is sometimes called as buttermilk. Very thin, was given to Mother Yasoda and Nanda, and they could barely hold that down. They didn't really have any appetite because they were burning in separation from Krishna out of their love for him. And that's how ill they had become as a result of Krishna's absence. Yasoda, she had like completely isolated herself, and she had no interest in talking with any one of her friends. Now we know that as Queen of Vrindavan, Mother Yasoda, always on hand, has got so many assistants, always following her around, very enthusiastic to assist her in her service to Krishna. But now, when Krishna's away, she didn't even need them. She isolated herself. She didn't want to see anybody, didn't want to talk to anybody. Her eyes were constantly brimming with tears, and she would sigh so heavily from time to time. Why? Because she was feeling this great separation from Krishna that you could hardly imagine. And all of a sudden, in this mood of separation from Krishna, out of her deep maternal affection, she would suddenly call out, Gopal, Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. And Nanda, he would, he was a little bit conscious that they had to feed Uddhava. So what he did, because what we heard in Vaishnav etiquette, in Vaishnav tradition, when a guest comes, We offer the guest a good seating place, something to drink, and a sweet word, something to eat. So Nanda, he knew that this was his duty. So there was no food in his house, so he had to go, and he went to the neighboring brahmanas' houses, and asked them for whatever they had. He brought some sweet rice for Uddhava, and he and Yasoda themselves, they didn't even partake of the sweet rice. They had completely lost their appetite in their distress. The same thing happened when Lord Ram left Ayodhya. All the residents, they neglected their fireplaces, neglected their kitchen, were fainting in separation from Krishna constantly, from Lord Ramachandra, and it was only there was no festivals, and it was only the festival of Diwali that was after the announcement of the Lord Ramachandra and his troop returning, that was the life-giving substance to their existence, that they found the strength for the service of the do their normal things of cooking and cleaning, etc. So Uddhava, when he saw this condition of Yasoda and Nanda, he spent the entire night talking to them about Krishna's adventures in Mathura, Krishna's parents, hearing about his childhood pastimes from them. He was like sort of stimulating talk about Krishna, because talk about Krishna is meant to be appeasing to the heart of one who is burning in separation. So Uddhava was trying to do this because he thought that's the only way he could help the situation. He was fully aware of Krishna's position as the Supreme Lord, Uddhava. So he started to speak about him in this consciousness of Krishna being the Supreme Lord, explaining everything from like sort of a theological point of view. He was emphasizing Krishna's all pervading omnipresence in the heart of every living entity. Nanda and Yasoda were not at all interested. They continued to cry. They cried out in distress at Krishna's absence because they didn't accept that Krishna's supremacy. And the whole night passed in this way. No one went to sleep. Mother Yasoda, actually, her love for Krishna is so intense that she had taken a vow not to close her eyes for as long as Krishna was away. Now we know how long Krishna was away from Vrindavan. He left when he was 11 years old, right? And he went to Mathura, and 11 or 13, I forget. But it was a long time before he came to Kurukshetra to meet the residents of Vrindavan. And all of this time, this is how Nanda and Yasoda passed their days. So when Uddhava saw all of this, he just had to say to himself, now I understand why Krishna sent me here to see this deep love. So Mother Yasoda's love for Krishna is, you know, is unparalleled. Sometimes even when she's fast asleep, um, this is before Krishna leaves to Mathura. Uh, when she's taking rest, she sometimes has a bad dream of Putana, the huge demon falling on the ground and Krishna being on top of her. And her whole body starts to perspire and tremble because, out of her maternal affection, her need for Krishna's protection in the time of this danger of being encountered by this huge demoness is so intense that her body starts to tremble. Her mind becomes so agitated, and she starts to scream for Krishna, chanting his various names loudly. So, just now we heard how Rohini, she's one of the persons who is also in this paternal affection. Like Rohini, sometimes in Vrindavan, because they're cowherd people and their wealth is butter and yogurt and all kinds of dairy substances. So Rohini, She One time she brought Krishna some very fragrant butter mixed with rock candy, seasoned with camphor. She put it on a silver tray, and it was like a complete manifestation of motherly affection from her lotus like heart. You can well imagine. Everyone became so happy when they saw Mother Rohini entering in such a mood of maternal affection to serve Krishna. Mother Yasoda repeatedly started to serve Krishna and all of his friends with this fragrant butter because she knows that's their favorite. It wasn't any ordinary butter that you'd find in any other house in Brindavan, mind you. It was specially fragrant butter. So, Madhu Mangal, taking advantage of this maternal affection, he would say, Mother, I'm still hungry although I've eaten unlimited amounts of food. So then Mother Yasoda, out of her affection, because she knows that Batu or Madhu Mangal is Krishna's favorite cowherd friend, one of his favorite. Krishna has so much love for this boy. So Mother Yasoda took great pleasure in putting more, feeding him more and more. So this is maternal affection in Brindavan. And Mother Yasoda, she would say, to the older people of Vrindavan, um, all the older people of Vrindavan, she would tell Madhu Mangal, they know how you, the leader of the boys from your very childhood, Krishna, how many times did they not complain to me about you stealing butter and yogurt from their homes? Mother Yasoda would personally hand Krishna a golden bucket for milk, placing it into his right hand. Into his left hand, she would put a rope, a silken rope for tying the cows. So Kana's hand is not impacted by the roughness of any rope. So most of the rope in Mother Yasoda's house were silken ropes. And then, you know, Krishna would be, his beauty would actually become more and more because now he'd be decorated not just by the golden bucket and silken ropes, but by his mother's love. So Mother Yasoda, her love for Krishna is so much that sometimes she would scream, Krishna, what you doing? Don't be late. Take your bath. Your meal is ready. Don't let it get cold. This is maternal affection. You may have been exposed to it also in your childhood. But when Mother Yasoda, when she calls out to Krishna in this manner, it is unparalleled. And then, she would get all her different servants um, all fired up, enthused to massage, rub, and bathe Krishna's body because Krishna has performed this tedious task of going out into the forest, herding the cows, fighting, playing with this, sporting with his cowherd friends. So his body must be really tired. So she looks after the comfort of Krishna's body, giving so much attention out of her to detail due to her deep love. Mother Yasoda, she like sometimes becomes so filled with anxiety that, you know, even if she sees a tiny, tiny imperfection in any of the servants' work, then she will, even if they are like experts, she then like will personally take over from them to teach them by example. So even though she's the queen of Vrindavan, when it comes to serving Krishna, she will teach others by personal example how to do things just so that everything is perfect for Krishna. In terms of service to Krishna, service that Krishna receives, nothing has to be mediocre. In Mother Yasoda's mind, everything has to be first class. So her mind, her heart, her entire existence is always fully absorbed in thoughts of how the rice, how the vegetables should be prepared, where, whether the vegetables are cooking nicely, not being overcooked and not burning, whether they're already cooked. She gives so much attention to the sweet rice, how it's flavored, the proper spices that are put in for Krishna's pleasure, the milk, the savories, a whole meditation day in and day out is how to make things the best for Krishna. And the variety of preparations, Krishna, he needs to have everything of the best. So this is Mother Yasoda's love for Krishna. I just thought even though we're talking about Nanda Maharaj, I couldn't help but uh, go off on a tangent there. But let's now speak about the udipan, or the objects that impel parental love. So, childhood age, childish dress, movements by the child, sweet words spoken by the child. It's explained that he, um, when he went to stop Nanda Maharaj from the Govardhan, from doing the Indra Puja, he walked into the court of Nanda and all his courtiers. And you can well imagine his childhood age, his childish dress, his movements, and his inability to string the words properly, uh, that is spoken by child Krishna. The nice smiling, the various forms of childish play are considered provocations for increasing parental love for Krishna. We may have heard in the Damodar Leela of how, when Krishna runs, his stomach, it expands and contracts. Sometimes when he's scared, or when he's running and he pants like that. So the belt of golden bells that's bound around his waist by Mother Yasoda in his younger age, they make the sweetest tinkling sound for the residents of Vrindavan. Nothing can compare to that sound. When Krishna's feet, his soft reddish lotus feet, touch the earth of Vrindavan Dham, and it goes tup tup tup, it endears the devotees in the elder devotees of Vrindavan so much to see Krishna as struggling to walk, sometimes struggling to speak, unable to speak properly. Sometimes Krishna decides to dress himself. When Krishna is small, normally his hair his curly locks are in a top knot, and there's a string of pearl in the top knot, and then the peacock feathers are present. But then sometimes he likes to, out of his own uh, vanity, try to put on a turban. So sometimes he tries to put on his clothes himself, and it's very amusing how he dresses himself. It's not exactly how Mother Yasoda normally dresses him, but when they see him in such a manner, their hearts become more and more um, endeared towards him. Kaumara, the childhood age, birth through 5 years old. So Krishna is now about 5 years old. And this age is most conducive to parental love. The childhood ages of Krishna are divided into three periods. They're beginning with Kaumara age, the middle Kaumara age, and the end Kaumara age. Then Adya Kaumara, Srila Rupa Goswami describes the form, activities, and ornaments of Krishna, Adya Kaumara, from birth through 1 year old, small baby. So this form, how does this baby form from 1 year old attract the minds of his parents? During the beginning, the middle of the Kaumara age, Krishna's thighs are fatty, and the inner parts of his eyes are whitish. There are signs of teeth coming out, and he's very mild and gentle. What a perfect baby, mild and gentle. No tantrums. Every parent's dream child. A blue, beautiful child with fat thighs and whitish eyes. Later on, his eyes become reddish with the bhav that he starts to reflect. But when he's small, like white lotus petals, these eyes resemble white lotus petals. And then Srila Rupa Goswami recites an example of how this beautiful form impels parental affection. When Krishna had only 3 or 4 teeth coming out of his gums, his thighs were fatty, his body very, very short, and he began to enhance the parental love of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda with activities of his childish body. So they become so enamored by Krishna's looks, um, his teeth beginning to pop out of his lotus mouth, his his beautiful fattish body, his uh, different activities now, his cesta, his exploits. He began to enhance the parental love of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda with activities of his childish body. He was sometimes stepping with his legs again and again, sometimes crying, sometimes smiling, sometimes sucking his thumb, and sometimes lying down flat. These are some of the different activities of child Krishna. And he was watched like a hawk by his parents, because they found so much of joy. If Krishna turned on his side, they wanted to have a festival. If Krishna, when Krishna started to have some teeth, everything was a cause of celebration, because this child was just the most attractive child anyone could ever come across. Sometimes when Krishna would lie down and would suck his toes, it was like a festival for the eyes of the parents to see all of this. When he would tap his feet on the earth, then his little anklets that Mother Yasoda would fix out of her love onto his ankles would then start to ring. And they would like charm the mind of Mother Yasoda more than yogis could ever accomplish after years of meditation. Srila Rupa Goswami cites an example of how these activities impel parental affection. When Krishna was lying down flat, sometimes sucking the toes of his feet, sometimes throwing his legs upward, sometimes crying and sometimes smiling, Mother Yasoda, seeing her son in such pastimes, did not show any sign of restricting him, but rather began to watch her child with eagerness, enjoying these childhood pastimes. So Krishna was never a boring child, you could see. Everything he did was like tugging at the strings of love in the heart of Nanda and Yasoda and all those that beheld such a wondrous vision. So, Krishna's ornaments. In the beginning of Krishna's Komara age, the nails of tigers are set in golden necklace about his neck. There was protective tilak on his forehead, black mascara around his eyes, and silk thread around his waist. So Mother Yasoda would bind the silk thread around his waist with like a tabij for his protection. And if you go to Vrindavan nowadays, you'll see little children. They also have this black string around their bellies, tied with some type of tabij. And then he has protective tilak that Mother Yasoda sometimes would apply, even sometimes out of her love. She would put it on with the saliva from her very own mouth, chanting different mantras while applying this tilak on various parts of Krishna's body. And then, of course, to enhance Krishna's beauty, to protect his eyes, and to ward off evil, the anyone's evil eyes. The thick mascara or kajal would be applied to Krishna's lotus-like eyes. Srila Rupa Goswami cites an example of how these ornaments impel parental affection. When Nanda Maharaj saw the beauty of his child with the tiger nails on his chest, he never became, never became, he was like so taken aback. And looking at Krishna over and over again in this manner, his heart never becomes satiated by the child's beauty, because it's like an ever increasing ocean of joy. The more you look at child Krishna, the more you want to see him. Indeed, we hear in the Brahma Samhita of how the gopis cursed the creator Brahma for making eyelids that blink, that in the short moment of the eyelid blinking, they are deprived of the vision of beauty that Krishna allows them. And in the same way, Nanda Maharaj, he never becomes satiated. He looks at Krishna and he just wants to keep on looking and looking and looking at this beautiful child. Then Krishna grows up and becomes like 2 or 3 years old. And Rupa Goswami describes the form and ornaments of Krishna in this time. Srila Rupa Goswami describes the form in Madhyama Kumar, then cites an example of how this form impels parental ecstasy. His scattered hair were touching his eyebrows. Now, Krishna at this age, he has a little bit of a fringe. His curls are now falling on his forehead and touching his eyebrows. And his eyes were restless, but he could not express his feelings with proper words. So he's still babbling and bringing joy by this childish babble to his parents. Still, when he was talking, his talk was so nice and sweet to hear. When Mother Yasoda looked at his little ears, she saw him naked trying to run very quickly with his little legs. She was merged into an ocean of nectar. So to behold the childish form of Krishna is indeed a great festival for the eye. What more can one say? Then Krishna's ornaments now as he's growing up. Srila Rupa Goswami describes Krishna's ornaments at this age. Then he cites an example of how these ornaments impel parental ecstasy. When Mother Yasoda saw that the child was moving, ringing the bells on his waist, smiling at her with a pearl between his nostrils and with butter on his hands, she became wonderfully pleased to see her little child in that fashion. So now Krishna has an added jewel in between his nostrils, and it hangs just to the top of his lip in the little indentation that is found just above the lip, in between the lip and the nose. A pearl hangs there and shakes. The bells now are announcing Krishna's movements to Mother Yasoda, and this is now, her heart is now swelling bigger and bigger with love and joy to behold this beautiful Kana, her child. Shesha Kumar, Srila Rupa Goswami similarly describes the form, ornaments, and activities of Shesha Kumar. Now he's between 4 to 5 years old. Krishna is growing up. He's grown up. So in this age, his form, while Krishna was in the end of his Komara age, his waist became thinner. So now this rounded belly that he had, that was giving his mother so much of joy, now his waist is becoming thinner. with all the running around the calves and Nanda Maharaj's courtyard, all of that exercise is now made his waist thinner. His chest has become broader, and his head is decorated with these curly hairs resembling the falling of wings of a crow. These wonderful features of Krishna's body never fail to astonish Mother Yasoda. So all of the wayward curls that hang, like you see in this lovely picture, that fall onto his lotus face, on his forehead, they're so endearing to see. And when he moves at this age, it's so much of increased pleasure for his parents. So the ornaments he wears in this age, at the end of his Komara age, Krishna carried a small stick in his hand. His clothing was a little longer, and he had a knot around his waist resembling the hood of a snake. So now, Krishna, like you can see in this picture, he has a sash over his dhoti, and that sash is now tied with a little knot that looks like the hood of a snake. He has his tiger nails on his chest still, and he carries a little stick. Why? Because he is the son of a cowherd man, the king of Vrindavan, who has 900,000 cows. Now, Krishna is becoming eager to become a cowherd boy, so he's developing the look of a little cowherd boy. He used his activities. He used to take care of the calves near the house, and sometimes he played with cowherd boys of about the same age as he is. He had a slender flute and a buffalo horn bugle, and sometimes he played on a flute made from leaves of trees. As Krishna grew up a little, his cowherding would wander farther and farther away from home. Sometimes he would return a little late, impelling great anxiety to overwhelm his parents. So sometimes, the Krishna being Rasaraj, he knows how to squeeze the heart of the devotee, how to squeeze out extra love. And he would sometimes purposefully come home little late, and his parents, their hearts, a moment extra in separation, you can well imagine their condition. So Krishna's childish movements at this age. Previously, Srila Prabhupada listed the Udipans for Vatsalya Ras: childhood age, childhood dress, movements by the child, sweet spoken words, excuse me, nice smiling, and various forms of childish play are considered provocations for increasing parental love for Krishna. Having finished his elaborate description of childhood age, Srila Rupa Goswami now describes childish movements, Shaishava Chapalya. When Krishna performs his childhood pastimes, his general practice is to break the milk and yogurt pots, throw the yogurt in the courtyard, and steal the cream from the milk. So he grows up with these and chooses these activities. And these activities, although it's seemingly so naughty, Mother Yasoda can't help but fall in love deeper and deeper with Krishna, because Krishna's naughtiness, because Krishna is the all attractive person. His naughtiness is even all attractive. Now we can clearly say between you and I that what we are witnessing from this description is the supreme personality of naughtiness, breaking the yogurt pots and stealing the milk, the cream from the milk. Srila Rupa Goswami cites an example of how this activity impels parental ecstasy. Mother Yasoda said, "Just look at Krishna, looking stealthily towards all sides and slowly stepping forward from the bushes. It appears that he's coming just to steal the butter. Don't expose yourself, or he may understand that we are looking towards him. I want to enjoy the sight of his eyebrows moving in this cunning way. I want to see his fearful eyes and beautiful face. So, even though ordinarily a mother would chastise a child who was on the verge of committing some naughty act, Mother Yasoda was so captivated by the movements of Krishna's lotus eyes that she couldn't check herself from wanting to see more and more of this beautiful face. Anubhav, Ashradharana, Anubhav, manifestations of ecstasy unique to parental love. Mother Yasoda experienced the ecstasy of maternal love by smelling his head, sometimes patting his body with her hand, sometimes offering blessings, sometimes ordering him, sometimes gazing at him, sometimes maintaining him, and sometimes giving him good instructions not to become a thief. Srila Prabhupada adds, an important point to be observed in this connection is that childish propensity of stealing is there even in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore this propensity is not artificial. However, in the spiritual relationship, there is no inebriety to this stealing propensity as there is in the material world. So everything originates in Krishna, and as a child, he does not understand restrictions. He wants is curious, he wants to touch everything, he wants to enjoy everything, he wants to taste everything. That's Krishna. Example of smelling Krishna's head. Srila Rupa Goswami illustrates this with two examples. First is the Srimad Bhagavatam 10 canto, 13 chapter, text 33. And the second is in their childhood pastimes, all these cowherd boys joined with Krishna in stealing butter. But rather than becoming angry, Mother Yasoda became wet from milk flowing out of her breasts. Out of her affection for Krishna, she began to smell his head repeatedly. So, even though Krishna does something like going with an army of his little friends and performing mischief acts, that does not deter her love for Krishna, but it increases her love for Krishna. Everything Krishna does, the way he looks, the way he speaks, the way he moves, the way he acts, everything is an impetus to pull at the strings of the hearts of the devotees, including us that are listening to these pastimes so nicely given to us by Prabhupada and Srila Rupa Goswami. Shraddharana Anubhav, manifestation of ecstasy shared with other rasas. The general activities of all mothers of cowherd boys were to kiss them, to embrace them, to call them by their names, and sometimes to chastise them mildly for their stealing habits. The Sattvika Bhav. All eight Sattvika Bhavs can fully manifest in Vatsalya Ras. These manifestations of parental love are called Sattvika ecstasy, wherein manifestations of eight kinds of ecstatic symptoms are visible in full. So, Mother Yasoda's love for Krishna is also besides being sattvic, it is in sattvika bhav, it is also in sthayi bhav, we'll hear just now. Ashadhanana, ashra, asadharana sattvika bhava. There is an additional symptom found exclusively in motherly devotees, and that is milk flowing from their breasts. Srila Rupa Goswami illustrates this in two examples. Srila Prabhupada, which you can read about, and then Srila Prabhupada then comments on the verse from Lalita Madhav. In this custom, It is the custom in the temples of the deities that if there has been some impure activities, the deity has to be washed in milk. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he was washed by milk from the breast of Mother Yasoda, which purified him from the dust covering. So sometimes when Krishna would return from the pasturing ground from the pasturing grounds from cow herding in the dust of Vrindavan, then his body would be so covered. His hair, which is normally so black and curly, will have red tints, red highlights of the dust of Vrindavan sticking to it. And Mother Yasoda, seeing this beautiful form of Krishna, even though it was supposedly dirty and dusty, the milk from her breast would simply pour out uh, to sort of give Krishna an abhishek. That much love she had for Krishna. An example of stamba. Srila Rupa Goswami also illustrates stamba or being stunned. When Mother Yasoda saw her son lifting Govardhan hill, she hesitated to embrace him and became stunned. So her love cannot perceive his greatness, we heard earlier on. Vyabhichari Bhav. All 33 Vyabhichari Bhavs are appropriate in Vatsalya Ras, example of harsha or jubilation. Mother Yasoda sometimes enjoyed the transcendental ecstasy in happiness when her child was saved from a dangerous situation, such as being attacked by Putana or some other demon. Srila Rupa Goswami cites instances of jubilation from the Bhagavatam and the Vidagdha Madhava that you could read about further. But Mother Yasoda becomes so enamored, so happy. She exhibits great ecstasy when she sees something positive happening to Krishna. Stai Bhav, Vatsalya Rati. Vatsalya Rati is the Stai Bhav of Vatsalya Ras. The main characteristic of Vatsalya Rati is anugraha, protective compassion and mercy towards Krishna, free from all restraints of formal reverence. Srila Rupa Goswami illustrates Vatsalya Rati in two quotes. The first is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which you can read, and the second is a similar statement, uh, is there in connection with Mother Yasoda when she was too anxious to hear the sound of Krishna's flute, expecting him back from the pasturing ground. Because she thought that it was getting very late, her anxiety to hear the sound of Krishna's flute became doubled and milk began to flow from her breast. In that condition, she was sometimes going within the house, sometimes coming out of the house. She was constantly looking to see if Govinda was coming back along the road. So, in stages of prema in Vatsalya Ras, Vatsalya Rati can heighten to prema, sneha, and raga. Srila Prabhupada explains that parental love of Mother Yasoda or Krishna steadily increases, and her love and ecstasy are sometimes described as intense affection and sometimes as overwhelming attachment. At prema, one's love for Krishna never wavers, even if there is sufficient cause. The presence of Krishna in his royal mode, surrounded by great sages offering respectful, I can't pronounce that word, uh,
Panegyric.
involves profound awe and reverence. This certainly interferes with the mood of anugraha and thus causes parental affection to diminish. So one would think that when Mother Yasoda sees the Brahmanas offering all these elaborate verses in sort of worship of Krishna, that he is an extraordinary person meant to be looked upon with awe and reverence, she cannot accept it. Despite these unfavorable circumstances, Mother Yasoda's maternal love does not waver nor diminish even a fraction of an inch, as evident by the milk flowing from her breasts. So she constantly sees and feels love for Krishna as her dependent. And that's why her body reacts in this way. And another example, when Krishna arrived at Kurukshetra, everyone jubilantly announced that the son of Devaki and Vasudev has arrived. Hearing that Krishna proclaimed to be someone else's son would certainly put a damper on Nanda and Yasoda's parental love. However, their love did not even slightly waver or diminish. Instead, they became overwhelmed with parental affection and expressed great pleasure because they only saw with single how one pointed affection, that this is their Kana. You can call him anybody else's son. He can, the whole world can call him, somebody else's son. But they are convinced in Stai Bhav that Krishna is theirs, and Krishna is theirs, and they have to protect him. He's dependent on them. Mother Yasoda's love for Krishna is so great. I was listening to one devotee giving a sapta, and he was explaining that sometimes it's supper time, and the sort of family tradition in Nandagram is that all the males they sit together and they take prasad first, and they are served by the elderly females, and then uh, the females will then honor the prasadam thereafter. So Nanda Maharaj, he's very often is in court discussing with these courtiers the different, administrative workings of everything in the village of Vrindavan, because he's the king of Raj. So when he comes out of court, then he screams for Kana, Kana, come, it's supper time. Because Kana is a boy, he has to come eat with the men. So Krishna, he sort of continues playing. And he doesn't really go when Nanda Maharaj calls him. But when Mother Yasoda calls him, Kana, it's time to eat, then out of fear for Mother Yasoda, he immediately leaves what he's doing and he wants to go, even if his friends tease him that, oh, whole day you weren't interested about, but now you want to run, let's finish the game, you're losing, that's why you want to run away from the game. But Krishna, he does not want to disobey Mother Yasoda's call. Why? Because Mother Yasoda, when she calls Krishna to come and eat, her thing is not that, oh, okay, it's time to eat, all of us have to eat now, so let's go. You know, her burning desire is, if I don't feed Krishna, something's going to happen to him. He's going to become weaker. He's not going to be able to function properly. Her maternal affection is so great that Krishna cannot resist it in any way. Sneha, my dear Queen Yasoda, the milk flowing out of your breast mountain has already whitened the river Ganges, and the tears from your eyes mixed with black mascara have already blackened the color of the Yamuna. And as you are standing just in between the two rivers, I think that there's no need for your anxiety to see that there's no need for your anxiety to see your son's face. Your parental affection has already been exhibited to him by these two rivers. Mother Yasoda's affection is in Sneha, which is characterized by the inability to withstand separation. And number two, the melting of the heart. Profuse tears and flowing milk are indications of a melted heart. So, Mother Yasoda's love for Krishna is totally overwhelming. Raga. In Raga, meeting with Krishna transforms distress into happiness, and separation from Krishna transforms happiness into distress. If Mother Yasoda could see Krishna's face, then even scorching fire would seem as pleasantly cooling as the Himalayan ice. If she could not see Krishna's face, even the ocean of nectar would seem like an ocean of arsenic poison. So Mother Yasoda only desire is to behold Krishna. Nothing else matters to her. Separation and meeting are yoga. Separation, utkantitit, utkantiva, utkantitva, longing. Queen Kunti's statement to Akrura occurred before Krishna had left Vrindavan for Dwarka. Therefore, it exemplifies the longing to see Krishna for the first time. So we said, Srila Rupa Goswami mentioned earlier on that Mother Kunti is also in parental affection toward Krishna. Viyoga, absence. Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 46, text 28 exemplifies Viyoga in Vatsalya Ras. Another example. When Krishna went to Mathura, Mother Yasoda was looking at Krishna's makeup utensils. What's Krishna's makeup utensils? The container she keeps the kajal in, the little bottle she keeps the scent for his hair, the aguru perfume that the cowherd boys would then come and smear on his body. So all of those are in little bejeweled utensils. And she fell down on the ground almost unconscious with a great sound. So you can imagine, like fainting, it makes a huge thud on the ground. When she was rolling over on the ground, there were many scratches on her body, and in that piteous condition, she began to cry, "Oh, my dear son! Oh, my dear son!" And she slapped her breast with her two hands. So, in exhibiting great distress via this bodily condition, with scratches on her lotus-like soft body, not really affecting her, she was completely absorbed in Krishna. Thus, she was unable to understand what is going on with her body. 10 emotions of of Viyoga. There are 10 Vyabhichar bhavas appropriate to the Vatsalya Ras in Viyoga. Great anxiety, lamentation, frustration, being stunned, humility, restlessness, madness, and illusion. Srila Rupa Goswami illustrates them. Chinta, or anxiety. Yasoda, I think your movements have been slackened, and I see that you are full of anxieties. All these conditions prove that out of separation from your son, you have a severe headache. So, anxiety. Mother Yasoda takes on anxiety. So, this is her form of transcendental stress, and she gets a headache. Vishada, lamentation. When Akrura told Yasoda that Krishna had married so many queens in Dwarika, she lamented. If she could have married Krishna to a nice girl in Vrindavan, a nice Brajbasi girl, we all know like who, Krishna would have stayed nearby. Therefore, upon hearing Akrura's news, she exclaimed, "My dear Akrura, you are simply throwing thunderbolts on my head." Why? Because now he has, 16,108 queens in Dwarika, and then he has sons from them. Now he's entangled in Dwarika. It will now delay us ever being rejoined with him. Nirveda, self disparagement. Mother Yasoda had so much opulence, but since her son left for Dwarka, she was unable to use it in his service. Therefore, she condemned her useless opulence. Jadata, inertness. When Yasoda sees the walking stick Krishna used when he was in Vrindavan, she becomes motionless with feelings of separation. So every paraphernalia that was formerly used by Krishna, everything is now causing remembrance to Mother Yasoda by her simply because of her great attachment and affection toward Krishna. Dainya, humility. In separation from Krishna, Mother Yasoda became so humble that she prayed to the creator of the universe, Lord Brahma, with tears in her eyes. My dear creator, won't you kindly bring my dear son Krishna back to me so that I can see him at least for a moment? So, this is her great humility in desperation of love. Chapalya, restlessness. Sometimes, in restlessness, like a mad woman, Mother Yasoda used to accuse Nanda Maharaj. What are you doing in the palace, you shameless man? Why do people call you the king of Raja? It is very astonishing that while being separated from your dear son Krishna, you are still living within Vrindavan as a hard hearted father. So these are indeed very harsh words that is not really characteristic of Mother Yasoda under normal circumstances. She never speaks in this manner normally, but due to her restlessness, she is now speaking like this. We all know that Nanda Maharaj wanted to stay on with Krishna in Mathura, but Krishna sent him back to go to Mother Yasoda. And that was the only reason Nanda came back, because it was Krishna's order. The only reason he's maintaining his life is that if Krishna comes back to Vrindavan and finds that his parents are dead, it would cause Krishna, inconsolable grief. Unmada, madness, Mother Yasoda used to wander all over Vrindavan asking the trees and the birds about Krishna. Don't you miss Krishna? When he walked past this way, did you give him shade? So many things. She would, like a seemingly mad person, start speaking to these so-called inanimate objects. Moha, illusion. In the illusion caused by separation, Nanda Maharaj imagined that Krishna was standing right in front of him. When Nanda Maharaj was accused by Mother Yasoda of being hard-hearted, he replied, "My dear Yasoda, why are you becoming so agitated? Kindly look more carefully. Just see, your son Krishna is standing before you. Don't become a mad woman like this. Please keep my home peaceful." So in his love, he was imagining Krishna here, imagining Krishna there, because he couldn't conceive of Krishna being absent from their household. Meeting, siddhi, perfectional meeting. Siddhi occurs when the devotee meets Krishna for the first time. When Krishna appeared in the arena of Kamsa, Mother Yasoda's joy upon being reunited with her son, that you could read about. Um, Stiti, constant meeting. My dear Mukunda, just after seeing your face, which is full with scent of the lotus flower, Mother Yasoda being attracted by the moonlight of your face, became so overjoyed in her affection that immediately from the nipples of her water pot like breast, milk began to flow. So Krishna is dark, blackish blue in complexion, we have heard. Why is his face now being considered like the moonlight? Because the absence of Krishna is actually like darkness. Excuse me. Is actually like darkness to Mother Yasoda. So therefore, when she sees, excuse me, when she sees Krishna's face, it is like the moonlight in the darkness of existence that is otherwise there in the absence of Krishna. This reference illustrates stiti, constant association, in a very interesting way. Jiva Goswami explains, after living in Dwarika for many years, Krishna killed Dantavakra and then returned to Mathura. There he rested at Vishramghat, laid down his kinky attire, and returned to kingly laid down his kingly attire and returned to Vrindavan. So when Krishna comes, so this is constant meeting. After 44 years of separation, Mother Yasoda's love for Krishna was as intense as it had been the day he left, evidenced by the milk that continually flowed from her breast. Yasoda Devi's maternal love was constant, stiti, and afforded her constant association of Krishna even in his apparent absence. So even though there's separation, Krishna is so present in the consciousness of Mother Yasoda, and the characteristic of Vatsalya Rati is a feeling that Krishna is one's helplessly dependent child. Srila Prabhupada says, symptoms of ecstatic love in parental affection are expressed when Krishna is accepted as a son. These constant transcendental emotions for Krishna are called steady ecstasy in parental love. It's immovable, it's unchangeable, it's steady. Combinations of Vatsalya, Sakya, and Dasya. The remainder of this chapter illustrates a variety. The remainder of the chapter illustrates a variety ways that these three mellows combine in different devotees. Balaram and Yudhishthir are friends, but this friendship is combined with parental affection due to their seniority. Like Balaram, when Balaram goes out with Krishna, he's always in the mood of protecting Krishna. His whole existence is how can Krishna be safe? And the servitude due to their awareness of that Krishna is God. That's how they maintain some servitude is also combined there. Ugrasen, Krishna's grandfather in Mathura, has the mood of servitude, even though he's elder than Krishna, but it is combined with parental affection. The elderly gopis have parental love combined with servitude and friendship. Nakul and Sahadev and Narad have fraternal love combined with servitorship. Shiva, Garuda, and Uddhav are servants, but their mood is combined with a touch of friendship. And that brings us to the conclusion of this wonderful chapter that internet. So are there any questions, comments, or corrections? Please type it in the chat box if you haven't already. Doesn't seem to be any. So we'll conclude there for this week for now. And we'll meet again in chapter 44, which takes us to even deeper in the subject of loving Krishna. So we know that the most important rule is to always remember Krishna, never forget him. And we see that these exalted devotees are setting an example in the various rasas of how this constant remembrance of Krishna is manifested in their daily activities, in their hearts, and in their actions. So, with meditations uh, on on this love and begging for their mercy, we conclude there for today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.